You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Jake Query. That is not Derek Schultz, and we could not be more thrilled. Actually, sitting here to my left is the voice of turn number 1 at the Indianapolis 500. That would mean that only Michael Young typically is between the two of us because I'm in turn 3. But Nick Yeoman joins us for Derek, who, of course, is on vacation. I think he does this each and every year because why talk about the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, it's only a big week leading up. You know, your post-IU Purdue basketball game.
Think, right?
Super Bowl coming up. March Madness just around the corner. Good time to take off. I would take off. What's the best week to take off if you're going to? Like middle of June, July? There's not a whole lot going on.
Major League Baseball All-Star Weekend?
Yeah, but this is not the one to do it. So I appreciate it. It's good to be back with you. We did this last year. Had a lot of fun. So I'm not filling Derek's role. You did all the show prep, all the notes. I know you did the production meetings.
Derek did all that.
Zoom meetings with the staff, a couple of those that Derek always does.
That's right.
I'm just here in the Jake Query role where I show up and I'm going to talk about sports.
That's right, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. By the way, we are inside, and thank you as always to Bailey and Wood, who is the presenting sponsor here of Query and Schultz that you see on the ISC Sports Network. Bailey and Wood, of course, BAWFG.com is their website, keeping your mortgage money right here in Central Indiana, and we are right now inside of the Lou Malnati studio. Nick, have you had Lou Malnati's pizza yet?
No, I haven't, but I know they deliver, don't they?
Let me tell you something. They do. Thank you for asking or for mentioning that. Free DEL23. Actually, I've got the code right here. There's a Q and S involved in that as well. See, Derek he printed out notes for me because he didn't trust me. Q and S free DEL23. That's for the free delivery. Or if you call them, you simply say, I was listening to Query and Schultz, and they told me about the free delivery, and you're going to get free delivery. And listen to this, by the way, from Lou Malnati's big game promotion. At Lou's, they're going to be offering any customers one free medium order of wings on orders of $35 or more coming up this Sunday. You have 4 different varieties of wings. How about these, Nick? You ready?
Mm-hmm.
You got the Buffalo.
Okay.
The Barbie Lou. I'm assuming that those are buffalo and barbecue flavors. Garlic parm, which sounds awesome, or lemon pepper. All of those wings, again, available to you right now. A free medium order of wings on orders $35 or more coming up this Sunday from Lou Malnati's. You can, and again, we know what Sunday is. It's the big game, right? You can inquire about having your game day party catered at LouMalnati's.com. That is LouMalnati's.com. Thank you so much to Lou Malnati's. We will get to their sponsored segment coming up. But, Nick, let's get to the meat of the matter, and that is Indiana and Purdue. Round number 1 taking place in Bloomington. And, you know, look, I thought Purdue, early in that game, Purdue falls way behind. And then you realize it was going to be difficult for them because Purdue is, offensively speaking, they are not a scoring bunches from the outside kind of team as much as a reliable, steady, consistent inside with Zach Edey, which is what they went to. And once they got him established, they were in really good shape, just kind of dug too big a hole.
Yeah, a little too late, right? No, I was really impressed. I mean, first of all, both squads showed up, which is what you want in a rivalry game.
Right.
The atmosphere was exactly how it should be for Purdue IU games. But you got to give Mike Woodson's team a ton of credit with the way they played defensively in the first half. You know, I watch a lot of Purdue basketball. I live in Lafayette, so I go to a lot of Purdue games, and everyone thinks that the key to stopping Purdue is what do you do with Zach Edey? Do you double team him? Do you try to do single coverage on him and I don't have some – there's nothing you can do. The key is making things as difficult as possible out around the three-point line. That's what Indiana did. I mean, they were all over Purdue's guards, made life miserable, forcing a lot of turnovers, and as we said, built that lead big enough that ultimately they could hold on.
Can we now say, Nick, safely that kind of the blueprint perhaps for Purdue in dealing with Purdue is exactly that? Edey's going to get us 35.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. You've got to make sure that you're not getting 18 or 15-point games from, whether it be Smith or Gillis or Lawyer. That's what beats you. And I think Indiana did that. Indiana just decided, you know what, he's going to get his 33. We've got to shut down elsewhere.
You got to make teams as one-dimensional as possible. And transitioning, you can say the same thing about Indiana. There have been nights where Trace Jackson-Davis does the same, goes out and gets you 20 and 20 points and rebounds. But if Jalen Hood-Schifino is not knocking the ball down like he was, against Maryland and really struggled, or you're not getting games from Galloway who stepped up, or Race Thompson who's back in the lineup, you make a team one-dimensional, all of a sudden they become a little bit easier to beat. So for Purdue, I think both fan bases, you walk away from the game. Obviously, if you're Indiana, it's big because you've won 2 of 3 over Purdue. The rivalry's back on. But I'm not sure if you're a Purdue fan, you walk away and you're really super disappointed with how everything went, or it's not like the season is now on the brink.
Who is, in your opinion, Nick Yeoman, which has the brighter NBA, not pro basketball, but NBA future? Zach Edey, Trace Jackson-Davis.
I would say Jalen Hood-Schifino if I'm going to really go off.
He's going to be a first-round pick.
There's no doubt. No, I would say it's probably Trace Jackson-Davis. His game has really developed over the last couple years. I mean, especially when he catches the ball, the way he pivots to the rim and gets to the basket. A lot of impressive dunks on Saturday in that game. But it just translates better to the NBA game. I mean, you don't see a lot of big 7'4" guys. I mean, Zach Edey moves well for what he is, but I just don't know how it translates, Jake, because there are 7-footers who are going to step out to the three-point line, suck Zach Edey away from the basket, and he becomes completely obsolete.
The thing about Edey, it's unfortunate for him because Zach Edey, if this were 2005,
he'd be the first-round pick.
He's the number 1 pick in the draft.
For
right?
sure.
I mean, he's Yao Ming, but it's not. And the game has changed. And if you look at, and in talking to people around the NBA, Trace Jackson-Davis, I've heard more and more people now saying that in the last couple of months, his relentless rebounding, his athleticism are areas that are maybe moving him into like second-round conversation. And I know that there are people, Indiana fans in particular, that look at him and say he's got to be a first-round pick. And he may still, depending on who comes out and whatnot. But the problem is, Nick, he's 6'9". 6'9" guys in the NBA, by and large, now are guys that are coming in off the wing.
Yeah.
He very rarely is putting the ball on the floor facing the basket. In the NBA level, that's what you've got to do at that size. He could be depending on where he goes, in the right system, he could be a designated really good rebounder for a long time in the NBA. But in terms of being somebody that, if you're spending a first-round pick on somebody, you want somebody that's giving you minutes, and in particular, offensively speaking, and I just don't see it out of Trace Jackson-Davis.
Think of a guy that the Pacers would have just saw the other night in Sacramento in Trey Lyles, an Indiana product,
right,
who, again, is probably a little too big and bulky.
That's a good comparison,
but
actually.
It doesn't have the height. I mean, he's hung around the league. He's had a nice career, made some money. But, yeah, does it translate? I don't know if it really does for either one of those guys. But,
right.
I mean, in the college game, they both phenomenal. I mean, the performances they both had this past weekend were incredible.
When you were talking about guys from the secondary standpoint, let's begin with Purdue. The one area with Purdue, to me, Nick, that has been that would make me feel good as a Boilermaker fan is they have, and I mentioned this coming into the game in Indiana. It wasn't applicable at Assembly Hall, but each guy on that roster outside, not named Zach Edey, has taken their turn or had the game that was their game to show what they can do. And thus, in the tournament, for example, if there's a game where Zach Edey is taken out or gets in foul trouble, you know now that Mason Gillis can have a night where he's on. You know that Fletcher Lawyer can have a night where he's on. You know that, it goes down the list. Even Brandon Newman, Braden Smith. It feels to me like there is a greater depth for Purdue of guys that can be the running mate to Zach Edey.
Yeah, and that's what you're hoping for, right? Because there are going to be so much focus put on slowing Zach Edey down that you've got to get it from other guys. So, I know a lot of concern with Purdue. Everyone talks about the freshman guards because guard play in the NCAA tournament is always just so key. I mean, you just see it year after
right.
year. But I think there's a lot of confidence Matt Painter has in both of those guys that they can step up. Here's the question, Jake. I mean, switching back to the IU side of it, Xavier Johnson coming back soon. What's the ceiling for this Indiana team? And obviously, huge win for Indiana. I don't think they're going to track down Purdue in the Big Ten race. That seems like it's pretty much wrapped up unless Purdue craters. But what's the ceiling for how far IU can do after a win like this?
I think Indiana has probably – this feels weird, to say. I don't know how to say this, but I think Indiana is more matchup dependent in the NCAA tournament. In other words, Indiana is really good and can do – and they do things very well. But if they go up against a team that's able to kind of neutralize Trace Jackson-Davis or that can put some perimeter pressure on either Hood-Schifino or Xavier Johnson, then that limits them a little bit. Whereas Purdue, I feel like Edey is such a unicorn, and their complementary pieces are so varied that for Purdue is more in a situation of we're just going to do what we do and take our chances. Whereas Indiana, it feels like there might be some necessary maneuverability of their strategy going in and out. Does that make sense?
Did they figure out who was throwing stuff on the court during the game?
You know, I have a theory on this.
You do?
Give me a team that you don't like.
Notre Dame.
Okay. So let's say Notre Dame. Give me a coach that Notre Dame might hire now that Mike Bray's on his way out.
Oh, that I don't like?
Well, no, just a coach in general.
Let's say
Micah Shrewsbury.
Yeah, Micah Shrewsbury. His name will be tossed around.
So let's say that Notre Dame goes out and hires Micah Shrewsbury, and suddenly Notre Dame basketball they're right there. They're the upper echelon. They're there. Notre Dame has a big game against Purdue. They're both ranked. They're both in the top 10. It's a fever matchup. It's late in the year, so there's a number 1 seed on the line. You're a big Purdue fan.
Yeah.
How about you go to the game, you dress yourself in all green, you paint your face gold, you put a big leprechaun on the side.
You fit right in.
And then late in the game, you start hurling stuff on the floor.
Go Irish.
A reminder, a technical foul will be called with another Notre Dame fan interruption.
And you do it again. Now, you're doing it to help Purdue.
For sure.
But they think you're a Notre Dame fan. Now, how do we know that that's not the case?
Yeah, that could be the case. I want to know.
Could it be this guy? This guy looks like maybe he's throwing stuff.
Nah, he looks like he's having a good time.
Yeah, he looks like a nice fella.
I was just curious about it, though. They never actually call the technical fouls, though.
They always threaten it. Yeah.
I don't think they'll ever actually do it because
I had a friend. I'm telling you, I had a buddy of mine he was a diehard North Carolina fan, and we had a pact that if Kentucky, this was before Kentucky became like John Calipari's Kentucky, that if Kentucky got back to the point where they were in national championship games, we were going to dress in all Kentucky stuff and storm the court in the middle of the game. Get a technical called late. It's like reverse psychology,
next
right?
level stuff, man.
Yeah, it's reverse psychology.
Playing chess, not checkers.
By the way, speaking of next level, it is time for our Lou Malnati's Guess Who's Cooking, which is a player that has taken it to the next level. And again, to talk about Lou Malnati's, I want to mention free delivery with the special code. QNS, do they have the code? There it is, right up there. The code. How do I do this? There's the code right there. See the code? QNS. Is there 2 E's in free? Free delivery 23. Just mention Query and Schultz when you call it and you place the order, right? All the locations, Broderpool, which is the best, Ferguson, that's dine-in location right on the canal. Carmel, West 86, Greenwood. Coming soon to Avon. You can order at LouMalnati's.com. And don't forget, for the big game coming up on Sunday, free medium order of wings with an order of $35 or more. Nick, I'm going to go with a guy that it's home cooking for this guy because when they're on the road, he struggles. But if you look at the last 2 home outings, 24 points, 16 points, shooting the ball from the outside, but just setting tone. You mentioned him. Jalen Hood-Schifino is becoming the player that Indiana needs him to be because we knew how good Trace Jackson Davis is, but they need a running mate for him, and he is playing the role well.
He's got some swagger to him, too.
He does.
I saw in the post-game press conference, I guess he told Mike Woodson, like, hey, I'm going to take this last shot here. And to his credit, and I saw some breakdown online on Twitter, he an incredible job getting in the lane, bumping into Zach Edey, kind of pushing off with the arm to get a little separation. NBA next-level stuff. So, no, that's a good pick. I'll go with Trace Jackson Davis. Here's what blew me away. Obviously, 25 points and the rebounds. He was all over the place with 13, but he played 39 minutes.
Yeah,
I was sat out 1 minute in the game. I mean, that's you got to have that come March. You got to have guys play 40, and for him to be doing that as a big, pretty impressive. So it was a great win for Indiana across the board.
You asked me to bring you a hat, so I did.
Yeah.
This has never been worn, but it's oddly like, is it dirty? I can't tell. Indiana sent me this with a big box of stuff recently. I thought I'm
gonna get killed in my hometown, but
is it too small?
Yeah, I have a giant watermelon-sized head. So
you look like you just got drafted. Is this like when you're making your college selection?
I'd like to announce I'll be taking my talents to Bloomington.
Stop! It actually looks pretty good on you. It matches your sweatshirt too.
Don't say that.
It does. We have plenty to get to over the course of today. Of course, as we're talking about Indiana and Purdue, let's not forget that it is also the week of the Super Bowl, and we will take a look at that between the Philadelphia Eagles and as well the Kansas City Chiefs, of course. and probably the most scrutinized ankle since Tom Coverdale's before the 2002 Final Four. We'll get to that. We have other things to get to, including our Love That Play, which we will do next with Nick Yeoman in for Derek Schultz. It is Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Other universities didn't fit into my life.
They said I'd have to quit my job to go to school.
They said it would take me 4 years to graduate.
They said I have to take tests when they tell me to.
They said my degree would cost a fortune.
But I didn't have to listen to them.
Because I have a university that listens to me.
Tests on your time, courses on your time, graduate on your time. WGU, the University of You.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network. Nick Yeoman from IndyCar Radio. Did we say IMS Radio Network or IndyCar Radio?
We got to go by both, don't we? The month of May, I think we go with the old IMS Radio Network because of the Sid Collins
That's fair.
angle. But we don't want folks to think we only cover the races at the Speedway. So IndyCar Radio, IMS Radio Network.
Now, you're going down to Texas like at some point, right?
To do some NASCAR races, yeah.
When is that?
That's like in April. Yeah, I'm working
It's not till then?
Yeah, I'm working with the Performance Racing Network as well to do some NASCAR races.
I used to do some of their stuff, and then I had a high school reunion, and I opted out of one, and they never called me again.
Well, guess who jumped into your spot?
I mean, well, no, you were doing it with me, and then they never called me again.
Yeah, well,
Wonder
I
what
just
happened
walk
there.
in and take people's spots. Derek should be a little nervous.
That's right.
The Query and Yeoman podcast.
Derek's the one that decides to take off Super Bowl week. Not a big week in sports talk at all. Kansas City and Philadelphia. This is interesting, Nick, because truth be told, it kind of feels like I could easily be convinced for either side here.
Yeah, it feels like a coin flip, and I
Yeah.
think the folks in Vegas kind of agree. I mean, I haven't seen it budge from a point and a half favored either way. So it's one of the best quarterbacks against one of the best rosters in the NFL in Philadelphia. So, you can kind of pick and choose which method of winning football games you prefer, but it's proof that you can win games in the NFL. You can win championships in more than one way, because I don't know if anyone puts Jalen Hurts on the same level as Patrick Mahomes. That would be silly.
But, he's been
phenomenal.
To Hurts' credit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there were a lot of us that thought when he came in that, he's a nice story and he's a good athlete, but, I mean, he's played really well for them.
Fits that system perfectly,
Yeah,
right?
that's a good way of saying it.
He's a guy who in college, he played at Alabama and Oklahoma, two schools who would just have a plethora of talent and weapons around him, and then that's exactly what the Eagles have done, whether it be, going and get A.J. Brown. Why did the Titans let him go again, by the way?
Yeah, that
didn't make any sense.
There has to be a backstory there, right?
Yeah, but I mean, Dallas Goedert at tight end. They've got a three-headed monster at running back with Sanders and Boston Scott. I mean, they've got a lot of weapons, a lot of ways they can beat you, and he is kind of that stir that mixes the drink. He's been fantastic.
Yeah, he's been really good. But let's talk about, first off, for Kansas City, the big question mark is going to be Mahomes' health.
Sure.
But, look, even a hobbled Patrick Mahomes is pretty darn good. You would think that he's got enough time here, right?
I wonder if the ankle was misdiagnosed as a high ankle sprain after their divisional game, because he looked fine against Cincinnati. I mean, I know they showed some times when he was backpedaling, and I'm sure it was sore, but high ankle sprains usually sideline you for months. I have a hard time believing that if he was able to play in that game against Cincinnati, the AFC Championship game, I don't think there's going to be any issues. I think he's going to be fine for this game against the Eagles.
Do you think he sleeps just with his leg propped up?
Is that how you do?
I think that's what you're supposed to do.
Is that what you do?
Yeah, that's what you're supposed
I don't know.
to do.
The only question mark, though, is, I mean, the Eagles they're quarterback killers, right? I mean, like the NFC Championship game, they knock out Brock Purdy.
True.
They send Josh Johnson onto his head.
I'll tell you what. I get the fact that over the course of an entire game, this doesn't apply. But during the course of the postseason, when Mahomes has been dinged up and Henny's come in,
It's not bad.
he's actually played pretty
not
well.
bad.
I mean, that offense has so many weapons, Nick, that it's, just get in and run the car for a couple of, like if, we'll use it in Indy 500 terms here, right? If Joseph Newgarden has an issue with his car and Tristan Vaudier's got to hop in it for 10 laps.
Yeah, you feel pretty good.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Over the course of 10 laps, it's a Penske car. How hard can it be, right? Nothing against Vaudier. It's kind of the same thing. I mean, the Chiefs' offense is a Penske car.
Do you know Chad Henne got drafted the same year as Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco?
Did he really?
Yeah. And Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings quarterback.
It pays to just not have all the mileage, right?
Oh, just hold a clipboard and just, let people, show them once or twice during the preseason.
Who's the one that, help me out here, Chase Daniel?
Yeah, he's hung around the league for a long time.
How long is he going to be around?
Charlie Whitehurst, didn't he hang around the league
touchdown,
for a while? Too?
Clipboard Jesus, right?
Yeah. No, there's we're previewing the Super Bowl. We're talking about backup quarterbacks.
Is there a better job than being an NFL backup quarterback?
It's pretty good. I think it pays pretty well.
What are they making? $800,000?
You're probably making above league minimum just because of how important the position
is. Let's look up. Which one are we going with?
Well, the Colts have had plenty.
Yeah.
Some would say that's all they've started over the last several years.
Well, Nick who is the face of career backup quarterback?
I mean, Chase Daniel has kind of been that for many years.
Chase Daniel career earnings. You want to guess?
Oh man, I bet it's north of $40 million.
Ooh, I think that's high.
You think so?
Oh wow.
Uh-huh.
$41 million.
Bring it up. Let's go.
Wow.
Let's go.
That is impressive. That actually almost constitutes as our Love That Play, which is our favorite play of the weekend, like Nick Yeoman knowing exactly how much Chase Daniel has made in his career. Love Heating and Air Conditioning, love-hvac.com. How much, Jake, do you trust Love Heating and Air? Well, I'll tell you how much. I just had them out at my parents' house, as a matter of fact, helping them out. Love-hvac.com or 317-353-2141. Because when it comes to taking care of your house, either on the heating side or the cooling side, you want to make sure that you have a family-owned business that understands family, understands commitment to excellence, and understands 24-hour on-call maintenance. That's what you get for Love Heating and Air, which is why they've been around for over 100 years in Central Indiana. They bring us each and every weekend our favorite play of the weekend. Nick, my nominee for this is going to be, and I know there was some heat about this, but since we're talking IU Purdue, late in the game, Indiana, the Hood Schifino play was huge that you talked about where he got himself some separation and scored. But Indiana, it has to take the ball out. They're up 3. They know that Purdue's coming. Purdue's only chance at that point is to steal the inbound and get a quick score. And I know there were a lot of people that thought that Mike Woodson drew up a play that out-schemed Matt Painter. It wasn't that so much as knowing, look, they're going to bring all the heat to us. We just got to go behind the defense and see what we get out of it. Hood Schifino gets the game-sealing dunk. Crowd goes crazy, rushes the floor. That's my Love That Play.
I'll go a little bit further back in the week. It hasn't been a great week for the Pacers. Hasn't been a great last couple weeks for the Pacers. But you and I had a phone conversation about some of the guys we kind of liked, and we said, we both really like Isaiah Jackson. And then he went out last week and had a ridiculous dunk that he had to throw it in Dwight Howard style that was phenomenal.
This was amazing, Nick. We had a conversation before. I think I was on my way to the game against the Lakers.
Yep, that's what it was.
And we talked about 3 things. We talked about Andrew Nembhard being a guy that had a big game in L.A. against the Lakers and how he's had a nice rookie season. We talked about the athleticism of Isaiah Jackson. And there was a third thing that we talked about.
We both like Aaron Nesmith.
Both like Aaron Nesmith.
Yeah.
That particular game, Nesmith had 24. Jackson had an unbelievable dunk, and it came down to the final play of the game, and Nembhard's inbouncing, and I thought, oh, my gosh, if he hits this, we are 3 for 3.
We almost went for the trifecta.
But unfortunately, the Pacers did not convert, but that play was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was great.
Unbelievable. That is our honorees of Love That Play. Speaking of the Pacers, Nick, they've lost 12 of their last 14. 12 of their last 14. Water finding its level a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously they've had to deal with the injuries of Tyrese Halliburton being out, so that didn't help. They're in a weird spot because trade deadline is on Thursday. Right now, I looked at the standings. They are 6th from the bottom right now. So conventional wisdom says you don't make moves on the trade deadline unless you feel like you are one move away from competing for an NBA title. But at the same time, you've got this young core that, and I'm sure Kevin Pritchard's probably a little hesitant to make a move. So where do you go trade deadline wise? Do they stand pat?
Here's the analogy I used. I can't remember if it was here or on the radio show. But did you ever do Legos?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, big as a kid, yeah.
So think of the Pacers as a Lego, like the box of Legos. You're going to build a basketball team. I think right now they feel pretty good about the core group of Legos and what's built together. And now it's just a matter of taking a couple of the smaller complementary pieces and just seeing what fits. And they're in that process. But those smaller pieces are, the round-out roster guys.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that's interesting to me is if you look at their young core, I mean, obviously Halliburton, Mathurin. Buddy Hield is a veteran, but he's younger, and I think they like his leadership.
Very
Miles
much
Turner
so.
they signed now, right? And then Neesmith that you talked about, and Nembhard. Isaiah Jackson as well. Then you look at the draft picks they have this year. They have 3 first-round picks, but 2 of them are Cleveland's and Boston's, which are going to be the very end of the first round. Then they have Houston's second-rounder.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have 3 picks between, say, 25 and 35. Is it in their better interest at this point to go ahead and, I'm not going to say tank, but to accept not making the playoffs so that you are getting a high top 15 pick, knowing that the return that you're going to get if you stick with them in the first round of those late picks are going to be later first round.
And this is why I said that they're in a weird spot, because all it would take would be 2 good weeks of winning basketball games, and they are right back in playoff potential in the picture. But instead, they find themselves in a spot where they've got like a 9% chance at the number 1 pick. At the very least, if everything goes chalk, being 6th from the bottom, they'd be in the exact same spot
like 10th,
where they took Benedict Mathurin a year ago.
Right.
So there's a chance that you can land a player of that caliber. But I guess you got to look at the roster of, if you're going to be active in the trade deadline, who do you offer up, and is it anyone that anyone's interested in?
If you look, Nick.
I'm not sure Gogo Batadze has a future here. I think we're both kind of a little out on Chris Duarte. I just don't know how many of your pieces teams are going to be interested in that you're going to offer up. And you're right. I don't think you're breaking up the young core because you feel so good about it.
I think Chris Duarte is a fine player, right? And he had a really good rookie year. But I think what we've learned is that Chris Duarte may well be the proverbial Jake Query 2025 guy, which is a guy destined to score 20 a game on a 25-win team over the course of his career.
I think that's fair.
He had really good numbers as a rookie, but then you realize now, well, it's because somebody had to have good numbers. And on a good team, he is more of probably a 7th or 8th guy, and I don't know that he himself plays that role well. That's the challenge with Chris Duarte. Goga Batadze, the problem with Goga is I think he's got to play 15, 18, 20 minutes a game to get in rhythm. And the Pacers have too much of a logjam at that position to get him 15, 18, 20 minutes a game to get him in that rhythm. Because he's not going to come on the floor over Miles Turner. And at this point, he's not going to come on the floor over Isaiah Jackson. And then you've got Jalen Smith, another young guy there. Where do you put Smith? He's kind of fallen out of rotation.
Yeah, he's been in and out. It's going to be fascinating because things kind of got started this past weekend, right, with the Nets trading Kyrie Irving. So there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be desperate to make a move. It's always my favorite week of the year. I love the NBA trade deadline.
Do you feel like with Kyrie Irving, it almost feels to me like the Mavericks, it's like they got swindled. Have people not figured out yet this guy's a total knucklehead? He can play, but he's a knucklehead, right?
Mark Cuban's on that Shark Tank show. He's so good at turning away bad deals.
He is, you're right.
And then someone walks in and say, "Listen, Sharks, I've got an offer for you. Here's Kyrie Irving. He's grenaded like the last 3 franchises he's been on."
And he hasn't, and he never lasts anywhere either,
and
right?
Mark Cuban's like, "I'm in. Sign me
right.
up." I don't know. That's going to be fascinating.
If you were, let me ask you this. Give me a franchise that no one would want to play for.
The Minnesota Timberwolves.
No, what's wrong with the Timberwolves? They got good players. Karl Anthony Towns, a good player. Anthony Edwards. You mean because it's cold all the time?
I don't like that.
Remote.
I didn't like that Rudy Gobert trade.
Okay,
but
So you're a Minnesota Timberwolf. So you're a Minnesota Timberwolf, and you, Nick Yeoman, as a Minnesota Timberwolf, have let it be known throughout the Twin Cities that you are not happy and you want out.
That's right. I'm disgruntled.
Your trade demand has been made.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the 3 franchises. If you base this is one of my favorite topics. Based on weather, fan base, arena, competitiveness, etc. Give me the 3 franchises that you would be absolutely doing cartwheels if they traded you.
We doing it just this year or like historically?
We'll go this year.
I'm gonna throw the Miami Heat out there. Hashtag Heat culture. Because they're always really strong.
Okay.
I mean, Pat Riley puts it together. You get to play for Eric Spoelstra. You're in Miami. That's pretty nice.
Coach, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, I'm kind of out on both of the Los Angeles teams. Dallas would be up there.
Really? You got to play with Kyrie Irving now.
Yeah, that's true. But don't you? There's like no state tax down there.
That's a good point.
Yeah, you can save a little money.
Okay, Dallas.
Dallas is up there.
How much time do you think Kyrie Irving's going to spend at the sixth floor museum?
Yeah,
Bailey
well,
Plaza.
It's a good thing he's not big into conspiracy theories or anything. They can send him down
He's
there.
Down there waiting for JFK Jr. to show up.
Good Lord.
Okay, Dallas would be your number 2. Who's your number 3?
Let's go with, man, there's something about playing in Madison Square Garden, even though the Knicks are a train wreck.
Okay. So here's mine. My number 3 probably, I'm going to go with kind of a curveball here. I'm going to go with the Denver Nuggets.
Okay.
Because it's sunny like 350 days a year. And because of its location, you never have a flight more than like 2.5 or 3 hours.
Yeah, that is pretty nice.
That would be the one problem with playing for Miami.
Yeah, we're playing for like Portland.
A lot of long flights. A lot of long flights there too. My number 2, Phoenix.
New ownership.
I mean, warm weather is big to me, man. Big to me. Houston, no state tax.
Yeah.
But they're terrible. So I think I'll go with Phoenix. I don't know what the tax situation is, but my number 1, without question, be a Laker. Nick, we've been out there for Long Beach races. You kidding me? Can you imagine walking around owning that town?
It does look pretty cool.
Walk up and down Santa Monica Boulevard and just be like, hey, I'm here. I'm a Laker.
Your luck, they'd be like, all right, we sent you to L.A. You're a member of the Clippers now.
Well, there's that too, right? There is that too. But hey, I'm telling you, I think life would be good.
Yeah.
But that's the challenge, from a free agency standpoint. I mean, you and I are both Pacer fans. We grew up in Indiana, and yet we don't. Are you at a disadvantage if you're Indiana in trying to get players to come here?
I think so. Yeah, I think historically that's always been the case. It's always the larger markets in terms of trying to acquire those players. You're looking for the guys like the David West acquisition is the gold standard in my opinion, where he was fresh off of an ACL tear. There wasn't that much of a market.
Right.
You take a chance on him, and he flourishes. So those are the guys that I think you're looking for if you're the Pacers in the offseason. But, I mean, we got a long way to go from there.
I mean, but I'm telling you, though, they have good young players. Let me tell you one other thing that is going to make me sound old.
Okay.
I know it's a shame.
Uh-huh.
I mentioned this earlier. I want you to – let me give you a point, and then you grade me. A being pretty good point, F being, Jake, you are clearly 50 and yelling at clouds, okay? The Pacers franchise has been longing since Reggie Miller left for a guy that is the face of the franchise, right? A guy that is built around, that's our guy. They thought they had it in Jermaine O'Neal. And then just a number of things happened, injuries, and Jermaine just kind of fell out of favor. Mended that, but left on kind of unusual terms. No one specific thing. The brawl didn't help.
No.
Ron Artest. Ron Artest comes here and finally gets a chance to flourish. He becomes an all-NBA performer, but he had more interest in his music career, and he wanted to take time off to help produce albums, et cetera, et cetera. Then you move on, Danny Granger maybe for a brief period, but Paul George. Wonderful talent, develops before our very eyes. Guy that not many people knew about, comes from Fresno State, becomes a really good player before our very eyes, and then what happens? Goes on Jimmy Kimmel, dresses like Michael Jackson in the Billie Jean video, looks ridiculous, and says, I've now got a fashion consultant, and I'm worried about my brand, PG. I'm going to change my number to PG-13. And it all, before our very eyes, his head goes like this, and he's got to get out of Indiana. So Victor Oladipo comes along. Wonderful guy, played at IU, not a top 100 recruit, discovered by Tom Crean, toiled in the NBA in Orlando and Oklahoma City, now gets his chance. Develops with the Pacers right before our very eyes, becomes a star. He's an all-NBA performer. He's an all-star. This is my city, the whole deal. And then, mass singer, producing albums, wants to sing the national anthem, doing all this stuff, and the brand of Victor Oladipo becomes too big. Now you have Tyrese Halliburton. Grew up in Milwaukee, not a prized recruit, goes to Iowa State, plays in Sacramento, brought to Indiana, starting to develop before our very eyes, and last week announces that he's now going to start a fashion line.
Yeah, but he's big into wearing pro wrestling T-shirts.
I understand.
So,
but the fact that now he is like, you know what, I'm going to enter into this new. I'm using my fame to launch areas of interest to me, and that's all totally cool. And he seems like a super nice guy. But does it raise maybe not a red flag, but a cautionary flag?
Yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. It's
so I'm not totally off base.
No, I don't think so. I don't think you are.
I mean, my last name starts with Q, but I'm not Qing on, right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
It's kind of a natural thing, though. Like, anytime you have some success, you're going to want to branch out and try other things. These guys are confident, man. They're professional basketball
Nick,
players.
how long have you worked with me? Have I ever shown you any diva?
You want me to be truthful?
Yeah. I'm the most rock-solid, down-to-earth team player on the planet. There's no diva to me at all.
I'm not answering this question.
I'd like to know one time that look at the two of us right now. Which one's got the fancied hair? You got the perfect line going around.
This does look pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That IU hat didn't mess it up too much, did it?
No.
And you're just a guy with a buffalo on your shirt.
I'm just a guy with a Roots Canada shirt, baby. Come on now. I've got no diva in me at all.
No, you're pretty down to earth.
Yeah, there's no diva to me. None. Maybe that would be a question for Bowl LVII, which is coming up in 2 short segments. It's Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned, and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.
Other universities didn't fit into my life.
They said I'd have to quit my job to go to school.
They said it would take me 4 years to graduate.
They said I have to take tests when they tell me to.
They said my degree would cost a fortune.
But I didn't have to listen to them.
Because I have a university that listens to me.
Tests on your time, courses on your time, graduate on your time. WGU, the University of You.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz. My name is Jake Query. That is not Derek Schultz. That is Nick Yeoman. Derek is taking the week off. He'll be back with us next week to discuss the results of the Super Bowl between Kansas City and Philadelphia, which we'll get into in just a bit. Nick, for those that are unfamiliar, and I don't know where they've been, give us the background on Nick Yeoman.
Well, how deep are we going? How far? What do you mean?
The floor is yours.
So I was born to Stacy and Gary Yeoman in Lafayette, Indiana in 1987. No, I'm a Lafayette native.
When's your birthday?
August 21st.
So you were born after Indiana's last national championship.
And they'll never see one ever again.
So you right here represent banner number 5, the age of banner number 5.
Yes, and that's what I've said. You can't celebrate those banners unless you were born before them. That's all I ask. If you got to see them hung, you can celebrate them. Lafayette, born and raised, graduate of Ball State University, chirp, chirp, by the way. And then in 2010, I got to join you on the IndyCar circus, and we've been doing that ever since.
And you thought to yourself, that's a fella right there that reeks of anything but diva, right?
Heard a lot of stories about Jake Query. Most of them are true. Most of them you can't share.
Just saying. We've had a lot of fun on the road, though, that's for sure.
Yeah, you've got a little diva in you. Don't lie.
Give me an example.
We'll be at a restaurant, and we'll be like, listen, you'll always start when you're giving an order, I hate to be this guy, which is the most diva line you're ever going to find. Now, granted...
No, the diva doesn't give the disclaimer of apology.
That's true. That's true. To your credit, your requests are always not very diva at all. It's always like, can I just get like a cheeseburger without the cheese and the bun and the lettuce? And you want us to just grill you up some hamburger meat? Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I get? I want this salad, but can you take off 9 different things?
I can't have nuts.
Yeah,
I can't have nuts. It's not my. Listen, it's not diva, it's diverticulitis, okay? I mean, what can I do? There's nothing I can do about it. By the way, it is time for our Sage Move of the Week, brought to you by the good folks at WGU Indiana. If you are one of the 700,000 Hoosiers who has college credit sitting on the shelf that they never went back to complete, you probably thought, and it seems almost like a big urban legend, that those college credits expire. They do not. Those college credits are still good for you to go back and finish that college degree. Or it might be that you're thinking about going to college for the very first time, but you think to yourself, you know what, I've got a job, I've got the kids. That's what WGU, that's the reason that they are there, because you're talking about an online education, Indiana's largest online accredited university, and with all of the different programs there, allowing you to work on your schedule, because ambition never rests. That's the beauty of WGU. Again, wgu.edu/Indiana is the website. They bring us each and every week our Sage Move of the Week. And Nick, this week it is not a move at all, but it's rather a stay put, right?
Yeah, we just found out Purdue's staying at number 1. So, a lot of people thought you lose because usually if you like to reward the teams that have undefeated weeks, but the Boilermakers not going to budge off of that number 1 line. They're going to stay there at the top of the AP poll.
You know how good you've got to be to lose and stay number 1? I mean, obviously a little of it has to do with what happens around you, but they are darn good, man.
I think a lot of people watched that Purdue-IU game. I think they watched how well Purdue fought back in the second half. And like I said, I think you walk away from that game saying, all right, this is still a really good team with everything out front.
Do you also take into consideration the rivalry aspect of it from
sure.
outside the state? You know what I mean? You say, look, I mean, Indiana's a good team. It's interesting. Indiana was a ranked team that was favored
against
right?
the number 1 team in the country.
Right.
It says all you need to say right there. So yeah, the atmosphere was tremendous. But yeah, I mean that's good for Matt Painter's team to stay there at number 1.
Have you ever put this on?
No, but so the first time I ever went to,
where do you look? You just look through one of the eyes.
You look at the dead left eye, and the right eye sometimes it follows you whether you're in a room.
I guess you'd look through, I don't know, though.
You want to know a great Purdue Pete story that I have? So the first time I ever went to a Purdue basketball game, I was a little kid. I was like 6 or 7 years old, and I felt terrible. It was probably this time of year, February, where we're all kind of going through the illnesses and battling through, and I had a stomach bug in the middle of the game. I go running down the steps because we were sitting in the nosebleeds way up at the top of Mackey Arena. My mom follows me down there because I'm about to lose my lunch.
Recycle.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm out there puking my guts up out in the Mackey concourse, and all of a sudden,
did you not make it to the bathroom?
No, I made it to a trash can. It's the first thing I could find. And all of a sudden, I feel this hand pat me on the back, and I look up, and you want to guess who it is? It's those dead eyes right there.
Purdue Pat, huh?
Purdue Pat.
Wow.
Yeah.
So wait a minute.
We've become friends, and we've been friends ever since.
So you're telling me Purdue Pete
saw
you puking?
Yep.
Now, was he offering you pats of encouragement, or was it pats of, like, helping you get more up?
As you know, they don't talk, Jake, so he's not going to tell you anything, but...
Now, I went last night.
He didn't have the hammer, though, thank God, because that could have gotten really bad.
Yeah, that would have gotten ugly. I went last night to the Pacer game, Pacers and Cleveland.
Yeah.
Boomer's birthday.
That's where all the mascots show up, right?
It's the greatest day in the history of the NBA. They have all. So they had. Here's who they had. Here were the roster of mascots that were there. Boomer, obviously. Freddie Fever. The Mad Ant.
Yeah, the four.
And I don't know this. Are ants known for their upper body strength? I know they can carry like an entire house
jacked,
on it.
Man.
Yeah, totally.
Like
I guess
curls.
it's because ants lift like 15 times their body weight or whatever.
Sure.
But the Mad Ant fellow was there, and then the Blazer. He's a mountain cat. Not great. The Phoenix Gorilla.
He's all-time great right there.
The Phoenix Gorilla is an all-time great, but he totally mailed it in. He literally came out, waved to a couple kids, and left. That was it.
Yeah, that's a shame.
The Miami Heat fella, who is basically the Philly fanatic, his name is Bernie, Burny. And then the greatest of all time. The greatest NBA mascot, the greatest professional mascot, the greatest college mascot, the greatest mascot in the history of mascots. Rocky, the Denver Nugget.
Oh, the mountain lion?
Rocky, the mountain lion with the lightning bolt tail. Rocky proceeded to not only come out and completely usurp everybody, which was fabulous, but, I mean, you would have thought it was a Nuggets game, but Rocky, and I've never seen anything like this, Rocky went up into the stands on the backs of seats and then did an entire lap around the arena simply by walking on the seats.
That takes some skill.
Stepping on people. Stole somebody's phone at one point. I mean, the best.
Was Rocky the mountain lion the one that they had like a malfunction one Denver Nuggets game and he rappelled down from the ceiling and it looked like there was a hanging? And he would just kind of sat there, and the children looked up, and they're like, "Mom, what's going on with Rocky?" And he just wasn't that him? It wasn't
there
it?
was a mascot malfunction.
Yeah, okay.
Where Rocky was knocked unconscious. I'm glad that this is of amusement to you.
I thought it hilarious.
And people thought that Rocky died. And he was hanging there. I mean, he was out like a light.
Listen, there's 82 NBA games a year. Not all of them are going to be interesting.
No,
I
you're
guarantee you everybody went home after that game and said, I got something I got to tell you about.
Well, there are probably 150,000 people in Denver were at that game, right?
Yeah.
If you ask them now.
So
that was Rocky.
So which mascot did not show up last night that we'll call it load management that didn't show up that you would have liked to have seen?
That's good. That's a good question. I like the Raptor.
Yeah.
I like the Raptor only because one year when they did this for Boomer's birthday, the Raptor was there. And
How old is Boomer, by the way?
30.
30 years old. Good for him.
And that's like
I mean, cat years, though.
Yeah, 21 in cat years. So so we're sitting there, and the Raptor, I was on press row back when the press row was right there, and the Pacemates came up. And the Raptor is standing next to me. He's just standing there. And the Raptor leans in and says a very guy-to-guy comment about the Pacemates. And I've liked the Raptor ever since. You know what I mean?
That's good.
I mean, he's not extinct. I'm trying to think of who else. I don't like Bernie the Bull.
What about the famous chicken? You don't see him very often.
No, I think he's just kind of kicked back, right?
I hope he didn't kick the bucket. Kick the bucket of chicken is what I'm worried about.
Actually, I don't know if you know this or not, but he is far more valuable today than he used to be with the price of eggs.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You want to get into the Super Bowl chat next?
We can, sure.
All right, we'll break down the Super Bowl, and we've also got a couple of sponsor mentions to get to, including Chateau Kitchen's Buy It or Bowl Schultz. I've got to come up with a couple of scenarios for Nick to weigh out. We'll do all of that. We come back here to the ISC Sports Network.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh!
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
At Bailey and Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned, and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh!
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network. Jake Query, Nick Yeoman over there. I forgot to start the stopwatch here on how long we're supposed to go here. Here we go. See how official we get here?
Derek do that too?
Derek does that. Derek does everything.
I'm so sorry, Derek.
Derek also comes up with, by the way, our Ball State cards in 60, which, Nick, you were mentioning. You've been following Michael Lewis's group a little bit, right?
They've had a great season so far. They got to find a way to get past Kent State, who is kind of the albatross in the room. I mean, they're having a great season, and if Ball State's going to make the tournament for the first time in 2000, they're going to have to knock them out in the MAC tournament. But they had a really good weekend. They played an overtime game against Eastern Michigan, who's got, Emory Bates? The guy that
he was
like
the
transferred.
former number 1 overall player, right?
I think he went for like 35. Ball State got the win. Peyton Sparks had 22 points, overtime win against Eastern Michigan. So good for the Cards. They're having a great year, and I can't wait to see how Michael Lewis does it. There's no reason Ball State basketball shouldn't have a winning record every single year in the state of Indiana. I mean, we all may be a little biased to how we feel about Indiana basketball and the importance it plays in this state, but that's a program that should be able to feast on your 3-star, 2-star guys that play good basketball in the state of Indiana. So I'm excited to see what Michael Lewis can do.
888, by the way, BSU ticket or ballstatesports.com, because Ball State from the men's side, that Eastern Michigan team Nick is talking about back at Worthen Arena, that is going to be on Saturday. Bowling Green, by the way, road trip for the Cardinals. That is coming up Tuesday. But again, Saturday, Eastern Michigan. And don't forget, 17-4 for the women's side of things. They blew out Akron and Ohio last week. And looking at their schedule, pair of home games, Wednesday and Saturday. So again, 888-BSU ticket or ballstatesports.com where you can find everything to go out and support Chirp Chirp, the Ball State Fighting Cardinals. Super Bowl, let's get back to that real quick, Nick. To me, the story of the game is going to be, as we talked about, and it's kind of generic to say it, but how much can you slow down, if at all, Patrick Mahomes and that Kansas City offense? Philadelphia is loaded. There is no doubt about it. And if you go back and think about when Philadelphia came in here to play the Colts, going into that game, they had some problems on their defensive line. They were worried about the Colts' rushing attack. They signed Ndamukong Suh. They kind of clogged some holes in the middle for themselves. They are pretty stout defensively, but it's going to come down to what Mahomes is able to do.
For sure, and I think it's going to take a Herculean-type effort from Patrick Mahomes, honestly, because I think that highly of Philadelphia. I don't think this is as good of a Chiefs team as maybe we saw a few years ago. Obviously, they let some weapons go. Tyreek Hill goes to the Miami Dolphins. Still don't feel like they have a really good running game, so they're not a very balanced team. And I think Philadelphia is balanced enough on both sides of the football that it's going to be it's going to take something special from Patrick Mahomes. Now, he's certainly capable of it. Lord knows he's the best quarterback in the league. But, man, I really like this Eagles team. Just across the board, talented. There's not a weak link at any point. So I think they got a chance.
The thing you've got to say about Philadelphia, and it's been a long time maybe since we've said this, maybe not in the NFL, but in a lot of sports, and that is they've been the best team all year.
Yeah.
They've been consistently the best team all season. And, a lot of times, I think a lot of people thought Buffalo was going to be there, but Philly is the one team that all season long they've been right there. And I think people that were waiting for Jalen Hurts to finally come back down to earth, I think we now know that ain't happening. I mean, this guy's here to stay.
He plays really good football. Obviously, Nick Sirianni is a really good head coach. That offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen, we're going to be watching that name for the next week or so to see if he lands with the Colts. They got a good coaching staff. The defense is a little underrated as well. I mean, obviously a lot of talk about the offense, but across the board, they're a tough team to attack, and we've seen all season long, as you pointed out, they went, they won as many games as they'd have for a reason. I think they're the favorite in my opinion, and I'm going with the Eagles.
It is time for Buyer to Bull Schultz, by the way, brought to you by Chateau Kitchens. Chateau Kitchens, of course, you can find them on Facebook and Instagram or at Chateau Kitchens on social media. They have all kinds of before and after pictures of fabulous remodels, whether it be the kitchen, anything inside your house, not just kitchen, bathrooms as well. We promise you, no more pictures of Derek stepping out of his newly renovated shower with the towel around his waist. They have taken that off thanks to my demands at Chateau Kitchens. You can find it again, Facebook and Instagram, all of the before and after photos. All right, this is very simple. I will make a statement. Nick, you tell me whether you buy it or you consider it to be Bull Schultz. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, statement number one. The Super Bowl MVP will not be a quarterback.
I'm going to go Bull Schultz because it's just always a quarterback, right? I mean, it's just
anymore.
The quarterback usually has the big game. The only time it's not, it's usually like a defensive player who comes up with 2 interceptions or has a pick 6 and a couple sacks. So the safe bet, I would say, Jake, is probably to go with a quarterback. If the Chiefs win, it's going to be Mahomes. There's no doubt in my mind. But if it's the Eagles, I think it'll probably be Jalen Hurts.
Okay, question number 2. The Pacers will make a move before the Thursday NBA trade deadline.
I'd like to see a move made, but I'll go Bull Schultz just because I don't think there's one out there for him. I don't think, let's talk the untouchables, the guys that if Kevin Pritchard.
Who would you put as untouchables?
Well, if Kevin Pritchard answers the phone and someone says, how about Tyrese Halliburton?
Untouchable.
How about Benedict Mathurin?
Untouchable.
Andrew Nemhard? Maybe.
Probably untouchable.
And then Miles Turner with the contract extension makes it very weird.
Right.
I think the contract extension actually probably makes him more tradable. But you're not going to trade a guy right after you had a press conference announcing that he's back. I don't think there's a move out there for the Pacers to make. I don't think they're close enough to contending this year. Maybe something small, but I don't think there's a move made.
Okay. Question number 3. Purdue will not be the Big Ten's furthest advancing team in the NCAA tournament.
They will not. I'm going to get killed. I'm going to play the averages, and I'm going to buy it.
You're just going based on the fact that...
Yeah. I mean, first of all, the Big Ten needs to find a way to get a couple teams into the second weekend. Like the last couple years, it's been a bloodbath.
Yeah.
I feel good about Purdue getting to the Sweet 16, but it wouldn't shock me if Indiana got just as far as Purdue. I like the Rutgers team.
They're the
Northwestern.
one...
Northwestern's going to get invited to the party. So they've got a shot.
Party. You know that Rutgers is the one... You got to give credit to Rutgers because... both Indiana and Purdue go out there and lose, and you think like, man, losing to Rutgers, and then you're like, you know what though? They're pretty darn good. I mean, they play great defensively. They're just solid, right?
Steve Peichel's a good coach. I'm surprised no one has come in, swooped in and scooped him up.
I mean, they've done a nice job.
Yeah.
Okay, question number 4. The Indianapolis 500 in May will be won by a first-time winner. Buy it or Bowl Schultz?
Ooh, so all right, let's throw out some of the best one-time or new winner,
Well, let's
possibilities.
If you go with just the favorites in general, okay?
Yeah.
Who are your top 5 names that come to mind that you think will win the 500?
Scott Dixon is always right there.
Okay.
Alexander Rossi is always right there.
Okay.
You got Marcus Erickson as the defending winner, needs to get some mention.
Okay.
Tony Kanaan has joined Arrow McLaren. He's going to have a good shot. Alex Pillow has been right there. He would be a first-time winner. So Pillow, Pato Award.
You're missing one more.
Colton Herta. Oh, Joseph Newgarden. It's about time. Joseph's got to get it done.
It feels to me like
it's like a 50-50 shot, honestly.
I know.
I mean, about half the drivers you like.
It feels to me like Newgarden, for those that are unfamiliar with it, Newgarden winning the Indy 500, a lot of people have thought is just an automatic once he got to Roger Penske. He's been the best driver in the series for a couple of years now. He's a multiple time winner of the series championship. But the 500's been kind of his white whale, right? And they're now calling it Bite or Bullneck. You should be happy about that.
Oh, I love that.
Newgarden himself, it feels like he would win Indy in the year when we least expect it.
Which we thought was last year, didn't we?
Yeah, kind of.
Penske wasn't very good. There is historical precedence. No one has ever been with Team Penske as a full-time driver as long as he has and not won an Indy 500.
Correct. Ryan Briscoe, he tied or I think he surpassed Briscoe last year.
I think he did last year. Yeah, so it's time.
The other guy among first-time winners, Scott McLaughlin, has got a good chance too.
It's been very, very strong. Team Penske's just been a little off the last couple of years. It's been a lot of Chip Ganassi, and then Arrow McLaren has kind of been that Chevrolet team. So, but to answer your question, it's 50-50. Let's go with it. I like seeing I like seeing first-time winners.
So we're going to go with it, right? You're going to buy it?
Alex Pillow, right now, I'm picking him.
That's hard.
I think he would have won last year if he wouldn't have had that pit stop penalty.
Now, I saw Pato Award. Somebody. He had mentioned something on social media, and somebody was like, well, you'd be a 500 winner if you hadn't lifted your foot out of the throttle.
Yeah, and I had someone debate me whether or not he actually did. I was like, I'm in turn 1. I would know. He definitely jumped out of the throttle.
I think he admitted it, didn't he?
Yeah, he would have crashed.
Right.
Plus, I mean, Erickson it was going to be a Ganassi driver. I mean, first it looked like it was Alex Pillow, then it looked like it'd be Scott Dixon, and then once Dixon won, he had the pit lane penalty, speeding penalty. And then it fell to Marcus Erickson.
I mean, Dixon.
And if it would have been Marcus Erickson, it would have been Tony Kanaan, who was sitting in third driving for Ganassi. So it was.
It looked like Scott Dixon's day for sure, right?
Pato Award got as much as he could out of that race, finishing second. So
would it surprise you? Pato Award wins the race?
No, not at all. And it'd be great, man. He's such a fun personality.
People would love it.
Yep, he'd be a great winner.
Lastly, Nick, last couple of minutes here, just because we just had, IndyCar was out in Palm Springs. Obviously, you're working for IndyCar Radio along with me. I think people probably would expect that we're going to talk a little bit about it. You were talking to and getting to know some of the Indy Lights drivers. What were the storylines that came out for you between whether it be Lights or IndyCar just from the test and the weekend itself?
Well, the cool thing about it's no longer Indy Lights. It's now known as the Indy Next Series. Right. And the cool thing is we're going to have like 18 drivers in that series, which, the last couple of years we've been talking about 11 or 12 car fields. So for guys like you and I who are trying to find something to talk about during those races, it's going to be cool to see a lot more drivers. On the IndyCar side, they just went out to Palm Springs, California, had a 2-day test. Some interesting names at top of timing and scoring. Kyle Kirkwood moves over from A.J. Foyt's team.
And I think a lot of expectation on what he can do now with the new team, right?
He joins Andretti Autosport, driving that 27 car that Alexander Rossi vacated. The Arrow McLaren cars were good as well with Felix Rosenqvist and Alexander Rossi. But Kirkwood's one that I think wouldn't surprise me at all if he won a race.
So Indy Next, it's not NXT, it's Next, right?
It's pronounced Next.
But it's spelled
NXT. Not confusing at all.
You all screwed that up.
Yeah, we are. We're going to for sure.
I think I had the wrong tire manufacturer for like 3 seasons before.
They're on Firestones now.
They're
back on Firestones.
See, I've got to get.
You got about a month to figure it out.
I
brother.
think I actually said the Firestone Indy Lights, but now I've got to say Firestone Indy next, right?
You looking forward to getting down to St. Pete?
Yeah, of course.
You got family down there, and
Oh,
you got
yeah.
a nice cigar bar down there you like to hit.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
John's Pass, baby.
St. Pete's pretty awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, Nick, we appreciate it.
Thanks,
and,
man.
Sorry about your boilers. You know what? I'm such a nice guy. I'll let you keep the hat.
Thanks, brother.
Boy, your head is big. Derek Schultz will be back. We'll be talking about the Super Bowl, the Chiefs, and the Eagles. By the way, your pick. I forgot to ask you.
I'm going with the Eagles.
Eagles?
Yep.
Final?
Yep.
Final score?
31-27.
Okay. I'm going to say, by the way, 27-23. Hate to say it, Kansas City.
All right.
I hope Philadelphia does win, but I think Kansas City's going to do it. We'll talk to you next week. Enjoy it. It's Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network.
Throw it up for Tillman. Whoa. My goodness.
122-60 for Penn. What a swim.